Hello, and welcome to the SAP Analytics series. I'm Shirendra, and you're watching this simulcast live on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. I hope you're safe and observing the protocols in your area so that we keep each other healthy, safe, and secure. In today's episode, we'll talk about technology that has the capacity to double the business value in the energy sector. So our focus will be energy sector. It's technology that is directly relevant to the responsive to the global shift that has taken place, accelerated by COVID-19 pandemic. Like most industries, energy was hit in the wake of COVID-19 pandemic. According to S&P Global, COVID-19 is having the greatest impact on oil due to its preeminence as the feedstock for land, air, and sea transport fuels. Global oil demand is expected to decline 8.4% from the pre-COVID forecast, wiping out 6 years of growth. Reductions to industry and power generation, particularly in developing nations, are likely to reduce coal demand by 5.7%. Natural gas demand is down 3.0% from the pre-COVID forecast. Delays in renewable installations in key markets are likely to reduce renewable energy production by 3.6%. So, in a down market, energy companies are encouraged to consider tech-based solutions that drive efficiency, speed, and automate processes and prioritize innovation. That's what innovation experts say. But hey, it is the emerging technologies that are making the difference. So, today's session features three world-renowned panelists who will discuss key tech innovation themes, adoptable across energy, capable of promoting survivability, sustainability, and even profit during these challenging times. Guys, please forgive me if I fumble. It's 4 o'clock in the morning for me because we are doing this for the US times, so I'm doing it early morning for you guys. Okay, for you to view this episode and other sessions that are run on emerging technologies live, I would request you to follow me so that you can be alerted when a live session is on. This gives you an opportunity to directly ask the questions from a guest. So please press the follow button if you're watching this on Twitter. If you're watching this on LinkedIn, please press the follow button. If you're watching this on YouTube, press the subscribe button and the bell icon so that you can be alerted when a live session is on. But if you're watching this on Facebook, there are two things you can do. You can like this episode, which is good and will help us, and also share this episode with other groups that are emerging technologies focused or energy sector focused, so more and more people can learn from these three experts. Okay, very, very quickly. Let me bring in my first guest. My first guest is Geoffrey Cann. Geoffrey brings an economist understanding of the ebbs and flows of the energy industry and a technician's understanding of technologies that play in the transformation of the economy. He has participated in development of IEA's publication on the impact of digital innovation on energy as a specialist on digital's effect on oil and gas. He's published his first book, Bits, Bytes, and Barrels, and we will have to talk about that. The digital transformation of oil and gas in 2019 to answer the who, what, when, where, and why of digital on the oil and gas industry. His book is required reading at many oil and gas companies keen to get ahead of the wave of digital change. So without any further ado, let me bring in Geoffrey Cann to the show. Good morning, Geoffrey, and good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are dialing in from.
Well, good morning, and thank you very much for having me all the way from Vancouver, BC today.
Good stuff. Good morning. How are you doing?
Really well. It's going to be a lovely day, and looking forward to this discussion.
Okay, so tell us about Bits, Bytes, and
Barrels.
Barrels. Can you please tell us a bit more about the book?
Oh, sure. So I started writing the book in 2018. In fact, some content of the book actually goes back to 2016. But what I was noticing was that what I saw a supply and demand gap in digital innovation in oil and gas. In other words, the supply of innovation in oil and gas is quite strong, but the demand is quite weak. And I saw it as it made it my mission in life to try and fix that supply and demand imbalance. And I do that by writing about it, interviewing and running my own podcast on digital innovation in oil and gas. I write a weekly article on that topic. And I have a training course that teaches digital awareness to oil and gas companies so that they can improve their appreciation for the impact of digital and work to embrace it. And the book is really the story about how that gets done in our industry.
Okay, so people who want to get the book, where can they get the book?
Oh, it's available all around the world now. It's the easiest way is to pick it up on Amazon if you happen to have access to Amazon sites. But it's in 100 sites around the planet, those that are affiliated with Amazon. It also has an audio version on Audible, which is available on Apple and Audible, Audible being an Amazon platform. There's an ebook version as well. And I've turned the entire book into a one-day, a 7.5-hour lecture series on Udemy. So if you want to avoid the reading, instead watch the video series about it, you can pick that up on Udemy for about the same cost as the book.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. Good stuff. Guys, if you've got any questions for Jeff, please put that in the comment section and I'll definitely pick that question up for him as we go forward. So let me bring my second guest. Okay, my second guest is the president of Stonebridge Consulting, a next generation consulting company, 100% focused on operational excellence in energy. So they are energy focused. Adam's energy industry knowledge and technical expertise enables upstream, midstream, downstream utilities, renewables, and field services companies to get lean and stay lean in today's dynamic energy market. So without any further ado, let me bring in Adam Hutchinson from Stonebridge Consulting. Hi, Adam. Good morning.
Good
How are you?
Great, wonderful, Shaylee. I love the name and energy. Great nickname, Shaylee. It couldn't get much better there. But welcome. I appreciate everybody attending and great to be here with you.
So tell the audience about yourself a bit and maybe a fun fact about yourself as well.
Great one. I live here in Oklahoma. Lived in Oklahoma and Texas, went to school here. Maybe the easy fun fact is I'm third generation energy. My wife's fourth generation energy. So we talk energy at family, we talk energy at work, and our kids love it when it costs a little bit more at the oil pump to get gas than not, because they understand that there's nice balance in the economy when that's the case. So.
Good stuff. Okay, give me a minute and I'll bring the third guest as well, and then we can start the conversation. Okay, my third guest is Senthil Kumar, Chairman and CEO of Sierra Digital, a firm focused on digital transformation, primarily in energy and the public sector. Senthil's company, Sierra Digital, is a premier SAP and Microsoft partner, has experienced exponential growth, year-on-year growth since 2002. And just weeks ago, Sierra announced the acquisition of Stonebridge Consulting. What happened there? You got acquired by Sierra Digital, is it?
There you go.
Okay. Which makes Sierra a new global powerhouse in energy, platform, and process evolution. So, without any further ado, let's bring in Senthil. Good morning, Senthil. How are you doing?
I'm good, Shaili. How are you doing? And good to see you again. And thanks for having me.
Good stuff. Thank you for being here and spending some time with us.
Yep.
So you acquired Adam's company, Stonebridge Consulting.
Yep.
How did that go?
Fantastic. It really kind of great synergy between Sierra Digital and Stonebridge, because we are more like the IT technologists, and then Adam's group comes with a lot of deep business operations excellence experience. So it's like bringing the Accenture and McKinsey as one company, man.
Good job. Okay, let's kick start. Guys, all the audience, few things. First, tell us, where are you watching in from? I am in Sydney. It's 5:10 in the morning. And so tell us, which part of the world are you watching this series, this session? And also, so city, And also, if you've got any question during the line, please put that in the comment section, and I will take that question in the audience Q&A session of the show. Okay, getting to the question straight away. As we mentioned, who's echoing here? Someone is okay. That's fine. As I mentioned before, when we introduced our guests, every corner of energy sector has been hit hard by COVID-19. So COVID-19 has had an impact on energy as well. But for all the pain and suffering that has occurred globally, there's a silver lining for energy companies. What do you think, Geoffrey? I think energy companies are taking it very differently. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, there's several things energy concerns have taken away from the pandemic, and first among those is, over the past 10 years or so, the industry has been, like many industries around the world, making investments in technologies to support its operations. And suddenly, during the pandemic, these technologies really proved themselves. Oil and gas concerns moved their employees, say, from a head office to work from home, literally overnight in the space of just a couple of days. And, notwithstanding the issues in Texas most recently, but during the pandemic, certainly I was well aware of shortages of butter, flour, personal protective equipment, and I never saw a shortage of energy. And so the industry obviously built for resilience, and these tools were put to work to keep the industry going. That's one critical lesson. This has been very, very good for these past investments have paid off. The second thing that I've noted is the speed by which the industry was able to move. It really underscored that the slow, cautious adoption of change that our industry is used to, it was put to the test during the pandemic, and the industry moved very, very quickly. Third thing that's happened is this is not as noticeable, but when you start to think about it, the capital markets have now started to really value those organizations with either a strong digital story or a digital narrative, or indeed are digital themselves. And valuations have shifted decisively now to favor digital companies. The biggest companies in the world are all digital giants, although 4 of the top 5 largest companies by revenue in 2019 are all energy concerns. So those are 3 very, very significant shifts that have taken place.
So you're saying a lot of companies have started now focusing on the digital component of it. I think there was a joke that was going around at the beginning of COVID, which was, who is the key driver of digital transformation in the organization? Is it CEO, the CIO, the CTO, or COVID-19? That nailed it. And most of the people actually realized that COVID-19 actually accelerated the digital transformation processes across different industries. And I think energy was one of the key beneficiaries of that.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. The industry has been benefiting from a set of tailwinds here that are pushing the digital shift in. Now, the industry still has its other struggles. The pandemic has hammered demand. And unfortunately, Russia and the Middle Eastern countries entered into a price war, a volume war at the very start of the pandemic, delivering a huge supply overhang that caused the price to further collapse. And in some instances, pricing almost went negative. So, there's been not only these digital tailwinds are giving us a push, the headwinds in front of us have been particularly strong in the industry.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so with those lessons learned, what is the energy companies doing at this stage? What are they doing different? Well, first of all, what they're doing, and then what are they doing differently to the other industries? And your book, Bits, Bytes, and Barrels, talks about innovation and technology as a place where companies can look to double value rather than lose any wealth. So, what is the difference that you see?
Well, the story with digital in oil and gas is the 4 different driver effects that it actually has. And the first driver effect is that digital applied to the study of our subsurface resources in the upstream has the potential to shift yield curves dramatically, because we just have a better understanding of the subsurface geology. And to just give you an illustration of what I mean, there's a company in Calgary that takes HD photography of drilling cuttings as they come off on the drilling floor, and pieces those together in the cloud to create an ultra detailed model of the subsurface geology at the level of the grain of sand. Now, this is a million times more resolution that you get from typical seismic shoot. So our understanding of those reserves is dramatically improving. And if we shift the yield curves, we'll expand our reserves position quite significantly. The second big driver is the cost reduction potential. If we apply digital tools throughout the entire value chain of oil and gas to reduce costs, we can take costs out by 20%. That's been proven over and over and over again now. The third driver is productivity. These tools apply to the productivity of our assets. That's people, frac spreads, drill rigs, pumps, valves, gas plants, pipelines, ports, ships, you name it. We can improve the productive capacity of those assets by a further 20%. And that does not yet even address the impact that these improvements have on our ESG position. The ability to cut methane emissions, for instance. At least one super major has applied AI to their fields in the United States, has achieved that 2020 value, the 20% cost and 20% productivity gain, and they've reduced their methane emissions by 74%. So these technologies have these four effects, which are pretty dramatic.
Okay. One thing I must say, today is a great day because, well, of course, it's early morning for me, but there are people watching at this hour because Asia is in dark at the moment. So India is around about midnight at the moment. And, going forward, it's all middle of the night. But we still have around about 75, 80 people watching this live show. So, guys, if you've got a question, put that in the comment section and I'll take that question. And also, if you've got a point of view on how energy is changing in this post or in some parts during pandemic era, tell us about it, and we will take that comment and share it with the panelists and also with the audience so that they get to understand. So, Jeff, technology is a broad topic. So, in particular, what all emerging technologies which have actually turned around and become a game changer?
Well, the first and chief among these is cloud computing.
Yep.
In the same way that if you think back to, well, none of us were around then, at least I hope none of us were around then, but at the turn of the previous century, 1902, when the Wright brothers were building their first aircraft, what they discovered was the power energy density of fossil fuels was just the right energy density to allow an aircraft to get off the ground. Scientists had always known how flight worked, the shape of the wings, but they didn't have an energy source that could pull an aircraft through the air with the requisite amount of thrust. And fossil fuels gave us that density. In the same way, cloud computing densifies data into huge repositories and the ability to do the processing of that data in the cloud. The combination of those two things is the equivalent of discovering fossil fuels for flight. So we are at the very starting point of a takeoff of our ability to process enormous quantities of data and insight, and it all starts with cloud computing. If you don't have cloud, you are not even in the game. So It starts there. Second is, and I call that part of the digital core. If you want to be in this business, you have to have this. Second part of this is that what I call is these enterprise tools, enterprise resource planning tools. Even in any future world I can imagine, people are going to want to get paid. You're going to have a payroll. You're going to have accounts payable. You're going to have to do your books. You're going to have to monitor your assets. That's the role of your enterprise engine. And it's to me, it's no longer a nice to have. If you're not on these platforms and you're trying to compete in this world, good luck. And the third, of course, is how do you then integrate these very clever tools, augmented reality, blockchain, cloud computing, and robots and artificial intelligence in the cloud? How do you do all of that unless you have very, very sophisticated ways to think about digital integration of these tools and technologies through things like open APIs and the like? And so it's those three technologies are giving the industry a terrific boost here, and the ones that I pay most attention to. So
you think our challenge is to see how and why these focus areas can deliver a doubling effect on the value in the energy sector?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Where do you see the doubling of value is absolutely the question.
And you're absolutely right. If you don't bring all these technologies together, all these emerging technologies together, and create an orchestration, I think that's the important aspect of it as well. In the cloud, that is when it will really, really impact and make a huge change. And so that orchestration is the key. And I shamelessly promote SAP at this moment and say, we've got our own cloud solution, and so and the ERP solution, and we are doing great work in this space of orchestration in the cloud, and so people can have a look at that as well. Okay, very, very quickly, before I get to the next question, we asked this question from a lot of people, where are they watching us from? And I'll very, very quickly, share some of the people who are watching this. So there is Kalcharan Pichumani watching it from Chennai in India. It's midnight there. Well, good night, Kali. Kumar says brilliant. I think he's watching it from India as well. Khaled coming from Austin, Texas. William coming from Oklahoma. Joe Revis from San Saba in Texas. Siva Gurunath from Sivaguru, Coimbatore in India, early morning. Paul Abizener from India. Francis Galgan from Denver. Christopher Edwards from Texas. Hari from Coimbatore. And Ashley Gary from Oklahoma City. Then Vijay Dalan from Chennai in India, and Divas from India, Coimbatore. So a lot of people watching it from India, and Lanfam from Denver. Okay, let's get back. Let's get back to the conversation. But there are people watching us from all over the world, and there is Matt Hamilton from Calgary in Alberta. So, oh no, people are not. This is awesome conversation from NK Nandu. Okay. Thank you guys. Thank you for the love, and please keep watching. And if you've got a question, please put that in the comment section, and I'll definitely take that comment very, very quickly. Okay, so first topic of discussion is cloud computing, is what you're talking about, right? We see a remarkable growth in terms of cloud migration, but is that an option rather than a requirement? So do people still do, or people are still focused on on-prem and then going cloud, or is it a hybrid? What you're seeing in the market?
Well, it is not an option, in my view, for companies that wish to survive in the long run. The cost profile of cloud alone has dropped sufficiently that those organizations that have historically may have viewed it as a cost barrier, that's no longer the case. As for cloud environments, there's real challenges trying to address the ability to go backwards and forwards from cloud and not off of cloud. So my view is it's a one-way street. Once you start moving your organization onto the cloud, you start to unlock or unwind the facilities that you may have had that were in your proprietary environment. Your ability to go back to that is going to be ever less attractive, because of the cloud will offer so many more advantages to you. So the company should really view this as a critical decision to take, but it is a one-way street. So there isn't really a pathway back. So my view for organizations is this is one of those what Amazon calls a one door decision. Once you've made it, you can't go back. There's no exit strategy that's sensible.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's move on to and talk to Senthil about it. So Senthil, I've got a cloud environment. What do I do with cloud? Why and how can a commitment to doubling the value for average energy company work? So, Adam, if you want to chime in, please do chime in. Who wants to start?
I can start from my side. What we are seeing in the market, Shaili, right now is, it's inevitable, as what Jeff mentioned, right? It begins in the boardroom with a purposeful choice to opt for future-leaning technologies. And you want to move your 21st century digital platforms, that's the only way to do it. There is no two ways. It's one way, just move forward with the cloud strategy. And then we are seeing talk to many customers, and we are seeing a lot of the willingness for them to really, it's not the technology that it's going to, it's a decision. It is a moving forward path, and everybody knows that it is not any more discussion about capex or opex. It's instead conversation about what technologies can help you to do that you could not do before, right? That's very, very important. With all the big data platforms we're talking about, all the digital transformations, predictive, prescriptive analytics, all these things are going to be powered. And if you're on-prem, think about it, how many systems you're going to integrate. So you have a lot of limitations, even to scale up, scale down the systems, right? And a lot of M&As are happening in the last 2-3 years, right? In the M&A transactions, when you want to do, the cloud is the optimal way of, because you can scale up 100 systems if you want. You cannot do that in the older days, because if it's an on-prem, it takes between 60 to 90 days just to get an approval process for you to buy some new infras, right? And then that becomes an older technology in 6 months to 1 year. That's what everybody is facing now, right? Adam, what do you feel about it? What do you think?
Great points, and certainly, to me, cloud computing, in a summary, is on-demand power at your fingertips. And so I date myself and go back 25 years and think of racking and burning servers in a data center, right? The cable management associated. I think of bringing up an OS and setting COBOL directives, so then all the COBOL programs could compile, and on down the chain. With cloud computing, that vertical stack is at your fingertips, on demand, within minutes, that you decide you want that environment. And then horizontally, it scales up or down to your needs. And in the ability to have a concept, and then within 4 hours, complete a end-to-end, allocating storage, allocating horsepower, selecting your application tool, doing it in the cloud, and moving data, ingesting data as an example, and putting it into an advanced analytics. It just blows my mind compared to 25 years ago. And I think, to Senthil, your comments, Geoffrey, that is enabling this digital movement in a way that we just haven't seen before in terms of the emerging technologies and solutions.
So one thing that comes to mind is that because everything is in the cloud, the accessibility to data is quite easy. You don't have to pull up data if it is lying in one hard drive or it's lying in one computer. You don't want to bring it all together to do smart stuff or intelligent stuff, or, as you said, you want to do advanced analytics with it. All of that stuff could be done very easily in the cloud with the horsepower that you need to run that, right? And that's what you guys are referring to. So in my view, that is an important aspect if you want to move forward. What do you think, Geoffrey?
Oh, completely correct. In the old world, or the previous world, or the world that some people are still in, you're looking at a supply chain to deliver you some technology that is weeks, if not months, stretched out. Where if you have to respond in short order, how do you even do that now? A good example of this: many countries are now imposing on their international travelers mandatory quarantining in hotels on arrival. And that decision gets taken at a public sector level, and then 3 weeks later, someone has to stand up a hotel reservation system for thousands and thousands of travelers coming into country. How do you do that unless you can tap into technologies like on-demand data storage, computing, and telecommunications? You can. It's in the cloud. That's how you do it. Take Pokemon Go. That product was downloaded 50 million times in the first 2 weeks. And did you hear anybody talk about the Pokemon Go shortage? Like I couldn't. No. It was all on demand, infinitely scalable infrastructure in the cloud. So it is precisely the way of the future, and as far as I'm concerned, there is no turning back, and we have only really just started to scratch the surface of what we're going to be able to do with that technology.
And we burned energy as I had to drive my kids around the town, Go applications. It worked out great.
Good stuff. So you guys, so we all agree that cloud computing is the first thing to, or the first place to go post-pandemic. What is the second? Geoffrey?
Well, the second technology that goes along with cloud, of course, or the second insight is that once you start loading data into the cloud, you need to have the know-how to interpret and understand that data. And so there's a whole world of data science and data insight and that skill set that is coming. And when you think about it, that creates this quite significant burden on an organization. And certainly one of the fastest ways to solve for that is to use the power of tools like the enterprise resource tool sets from companies like SAP to be able to organize and orchestrate that data so that you've got access to it and you solve for just the overwhelming volume of activity that's going to be coming at you. So when I look at the stack here, these are these basic building blocks. If you don't have these, you will really struggle in a future world.
And to your point, I think when you're saying that all of these components can be readily available or can be made available in the cloud environment, where if you've got all of that access to all of that data, you can move forward pretty quickly. Is there a change that is required in the ERP environment as well, or is it, or can we still go with what we've got? Geoffrey?
Well, I mean, the ERP systems are themselves being redesigned for this cloud world. So that shift is also underway. I mean, if you're an enterprise technology company, the idea that you're going to sit in an on-premises data center for the rest of your existence is no longer valid if the customers are all moving to the cloud. So the enterprise technologies themselves are becoming cloud-enabled. And so this is another significant shift that is absolutely underway that we should spend some time to discuss.
What do you think, Senthil, about this?
No, absolutely. I think to Jeff's point, even this year, if you see, SAP has brought the RISE program. It's all about moving everybody from the on-prem to the cloud strategy, and we are actually double dipping ourselves to build a lot of applications in the SAP cloud platform and using instead of all the old versions of business objects or BW2, moving the customers to SAP Analytics Cloud, taking them to more planning side of the world, forecasting, all these things. If you see, it is becoming more cloud friendly, and SAP is not more like in the past that it takes 3 to 4 years to go live. You can take the customers go live in 6 months, 7 months, 8 months. The return on investment is pretty high. And then, with the cloud, they can power the technology and they can add more modules to it whenever they need it. It's pretty, a big differentiator, not like the past.
Okay. And what makes S/4HANA so different? And how can its implementation lead to doubling the value? Geoffrey, you want to have a go at that?
Oh, for sure. I mean, the new versions are very, very different from the old versions that we would have been familiar with. I personally was involved with several ERP deployments at the turn of the last century. That's the 2000s, not 1900. Just in case you wanted, you're looking at me going, he's so old. Of course you would remember migration. No. Just 20 years ago, we went through a major wave of ERP deployment. But so the first thing is that what the products have discovered, the ERP developers have discovered, is that the volume of data storage that's available online in the cloud means that they can move the database itself into memory instead of having it sitting on disks. That's an enormous change. It was very subtle, but it's enormous. The latency that comes with having disk drive heads moving around and extracting data. And moving that into place, that time latency is gone. So once you put the product up in the cloud, you can start to do in memory, you can start to do some much more interesting things with it, such as real-time data validation. So second is that the database has what's called a flat design. And in the original, if you go back to 20, 30 years when you're developing software, you had what was called a hierarchical design for your database. It was expensive. Or say, like Shally, your name might in a database design, you would only store it once, and you put it in a table. And then when she said, well, if I want to combine Shally with his purchases, I'll combine those two tables together, and then I will present that to the user who's saying, well, what has Shally purchased lately? That's called a hierarchical design. It eliminates the duplication of data, because at the time, disk was expensive and computer horsepower is expensive. So now if you turn that on its head, you make disk, like cloud memory, cheap, and the analytics cheap in the cloud. You don't need to have this hierarchical structure. You can duplicate the names as makes sense. So this flat database design is much, much faster and way easier for the user to interact with, because they don't have to be thinking about which tables do I have to merge so I can get the data that I want. It just makes better decision making, faster processes, easier implementation, as Senthil has pointed out.
Senthil, do you want to add something to it?
Yeah, absolutely. As what Jeff mentioned, what we see in the market is if the customer wants to see the value of their investments on the ERP, the best way is to innovate more, to maximize the system what they have right now, and use tools like predictive and prescriptive, and then planning and forecasting. In the older days, if you want to bring all these platforms together, it takes years. With the cloud adoption, the best, if they want, we can get everything in a week's time. We can up all the systems up and running. You connect through the HANA database. You have all the stuffs in one system, and then you can try to kind of write your algorithms to understand the patterns, because those are the things is going to be very critical to operate it, because once you're not making your revenue, the only thing is you have to cut your costs somewhere, but you have to know where to cut the costs. It can be a well life cycle management, it can be a spend analytics, or it can be, it can be anything for that matter. But to get to know even the deeper insights to make your right decisions, you need those systems to support. You need all those technologies to play together on one system. So I feel that this is more critical and so important, even for the customers. It's not actually an investment. It is basically to save their money. That's how I see it.
But a system is as good as what you ask of it, right, Adam?
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And I believe that leads us to Geoffrey's third lever there with the digital technology integration. And so now we have this cloud computing, we have this ERP, and that sets the stage for, quite honestly, my favorite part, right? And that is a lot of what is traditionally in energy is the best of breed landscape of operational systems, plumbing, connecting data, and so forth. And so as we reference back, and I'm sure many folks on the call can remember, as you go to fill in to meet business objectives of CapEx, OpEx, reserves, whatever it might be, G&A, and your ERP, you look first to see if it does it. And then you realize, man, this is a square peg round hole. This isn't exactly what we need. It's not going to be the time to market that we need. Then you might look off over at the best of breeds landscape and the commercial off the shelf. And maybe there's a price limiter. Maybe it was not all the functionality. You might have brought that COTS in, and sometimes you might have built something new. And again, back to that weeks, months, even potentially years to roll it out. And by the time you roll it out, the business strategy's changed, right? From hold by production to infill drilling, right? Or whatever that business strategy might be. So marrying it up with the discussion that we've talked about with the cloud ERP and this speed to market capability with a huge toolbox to meet these business objectives, it is phenomenal. And so where it was called custom development before, I almost think, and you heard it here first, Shally, it's COTS, but it's custom off the shelf. And in a sense, that's exactly what cloud and this digital technology integration is doing for us.
Interesting. This is getting interesting, guys. If you've got a question, please put that in the comment section. I'll take that in the audience Q&A. And please don't forget to like and share this episode so more and more people can learn from this. Wherever you're watching this, whatever platform you're watching this, please share, like, put a heart. That's even better. If you love it, that's good. Okay. Talking about Sierra and Stonebridge, you guys have partnered and pioneered into a new application stack that extract maximum benefit from cloud-aligned systems. So can you tell us more about that, Adam?
Yeah, absolutely. So as we look at our operational processes, and wow, what a roller coaster the last 5 years has been in that regard, back to private equity coming in, a lot of startups, delineating acreage, holding by production, infill drilling, big focus on CapEx, a big shift to OpEx. It was a lot in 5 years, to be quite honest. I mean, even to the strategy now of PDP blowdowns and so forth, has had us all, it seems like 10 or 15 years worth of, if you will, use cases or what brings value to our customers. One that's just emerged consistently is our InterHub platform. In short, we pioneered it about 8 years ago, have continued to grow market share. And I think time and time again, what we get back is it establishes a data foundation through data quality, master data management, transactional integration, so forth, that only further increases that speed to market. Whether you're wanting to look at AI around a electric submersible pump, whether you're wanting to do something very advanced around your human resources files and your work orders and the people that are going out in the field around safety, what our clients if you have the data available, back to Geoffrey's point, and this nice denormalized way, quickly accessible, high speed, that last 10% of asking that question in the analytics is very quick. So that's been great. In addition, of course, over the last 5 years, G&A, a big focus. And if you have your people doing more analysis and less clerical, that's a huge win for a company. And then as we've further evolved, when we can do things with the platform that really drives that that OpEx, back to Senthil's boardroom reference earlier, then that's what helps our clients justify budget. That's what helps them a game changer in their P&L, and helps the energy industry continue to survive and thrive even in these challenging times.
Okay, so you guys are pushing the boundaries as far as innovation is concerned. Geoffrey, what do you think?
There's no in terms of innovation in the industry is only really at the earliest stages of innovating its way through digital innovation. One factor I would bring to just to observe is that when companies are suppliers to the industry are doing innovation on their own, their chances of success are actually quite low. It's when they collaborate with a customer to work to collectively to solve the problem, the probability of success goes way up. It's estimated that a startup working by itself trying to tackle innovation in this industry has only a 2% chance of success, whereas it's 30% if it's being driven and directed by a customer. So my advice around innovation and digital change is that are interested in this is this ecosystem thinking now needs to advance. Where companies that are buying innovation need to be working more closely with the suppliers of that innovation than they would have otherwise in the past, in order for these particularly these digital tools to have the effect that they should have.
Yeah.
Okay, and also I think innovation should be driven by the business outcomes that they're trying to achieve. Any use case or any business outcome that comes to mind in the energy sector in the last 1 year that has made a significant change or a significant difference? Any of you wants to share, throw a light on that?
Go ahead.
You go ahead first.
Well, there's lots and lots of examples of technologies that have made pretty impactful changes in the industry. As an example, you can only talk to literally any oil concern that moved onto the cloud just in the past year, and they'll tell you that the impact that it's had just on a cost basis. One major company in Canada that I know of, the CIO called me directly to tell me the story, because even he was struggling to believe that what he was seeing. But they had three cloud companies come in to talk to them about cost adoption rates. And one of the three companies was able to reduce their cost by 95%. 95%. Not 5%, not 10%, 95%. So this is when you talk about how do you get real value out of this, there are some legacy contracts, some legacy business practices, legacy systems out there that are making a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
Of oil companies not in looking at how do they take advantage of these new tools and technologies.
Senthil, you want to add any use case?
So definitely with the experience that we went through the last year or so, we quickly understood that the energy companies doesn't have a lot of investments to make because of the business has kind of shrunk for everybody. So we kind of went on another route of, okay, how do we give some cost efficiency on their operation side of the house? That's where the InnerHub story pitches in, right? Because it has a great well life cycle management. It's a template approach. It kind of tries to collect dimes and dollars from every side of it. How do you do your operational efficiency? And then we are trying to kind of power it by SAP also on the top using SAP Analytics Cloud. Then how do you do your planning? How do you do your predictions? And where do you kind of save the cost? And taking that and integrating with your SAP finance systems to understand how is your bottom line and top line is working out, right? It's a fantastic use case because it's more than an investment. It is a savings for the customer because, they're going to get some money back when you kind of go through this drill and exercise, right? So like that, we are offering a lot of things at this point to the customer. We also built another one for supply chain visibility, or, we call it as where do you lose money on your supply chain in your logistics process? Try to kind of hunt for, everywhere, go there and find out how the business process has been set up, and then optimize it to kind of get the money back to the customer, right? So, a lot of innovations are happening, but as one thing, as an organization from Stonebridge and Sierra, we all decided all our investments we are making on the cloud strategy. It's all about the cloud. It is all about SAP Cloud Platform, or if you kind of see the bigger workloads of SAP, probably we are taking them on the route of like Microsoft Azure or AWS, and then covering up with SAP Cloud Platform, micro apps, and analytics through SAC, right? A lot of things we are trying to customers to provide some value for what they're investing on.
Good stuff. And I think that makes even sense because most of the data points are available in the cloud, so you can actually optimize them. Because if it's lying in someone's desktop or it's lying on a computer down somewhere which is not connected, then you cannot optimize because you can't see the entire end-to-end business process. And because those data points are right in the cloud, you can actually see through where are the efficiency opportunities, so you can actually very quickly make those changes. And to your point, Geoffrey, that's mind-boggling. 95% cost reduction is a huge number we're talking about here.
Yeah, that was just to the servicing cost of running that particular commercial or technology in the legacy environment, and that's just the advantage of moving it to the cloud. That does not get at the real questions of, well, how do you transform the business process based on the fact that you now have that particular system accessible to anybody in your supply chain if you set it up that fashion. I mean, these broader opportunities, just because you go to cloud is, as I say, it's like table stakes. If you're not there, you can't get to the doubling potential of value. So what I see happening is, we're taking down these barriers that have imposed siloed data structures and lots of redundancy. Those are now being taken down. We take out this outdated technology and we move ourselves forward into new shoes, if you like. And new low cost, low code, no code, pay as you go systems with infinite scalability. This allows you to advance these business models that we use more flexibly, with better alignment internally, faster all around. That is critical. And if you stare at the pressures we've got to deal with environmental issues and social issues, this is exactly where we have to go if we're going to help this industry sustain our transition to new energies as we advance our societies.
Good stuff. Adam, do you want to add any use case that you've seen?
Oh, absolutely. I love use cases. Supply chain's a great one. Generally speaking, for energy, cost per unit of energy produced. Upstream, that might be LOE per BOE. And what seems like a pretty simple fraction, when you start to break down everything that goes into your lease operating expenses and everything that can go into increasing or decreasing your BOE, or your barrels equivalent, it's amazing, right? From manpower to systems to on down the list, the real estate, the wellhead, the preventative maintenance, and so forth. On the denominator side of that, right? Downtime, uptime, optimization, the engineering that goes into the well. Those have been the best projects and the most success, because literally you have hundreds of use cases. But as Geoffrey was saying earlier, you look at that client, right? What's their business strategy? What are they doing well? What are they not? And you can pretty quickly find something that can have a measurable change to LOE per barrel, which will have a measurable change to Wall Street guidance and that company. So
good stuff. Okay, guys, thank you for the insights and thank you for all the knowledge, and let's get to the audience Q&A. But before I get there, guys, if you've got a question, put that in the comment section. I'll take that question just right away. This is your moment to ask questions to these three interesting people joining us all the way from Canada, US. I'm in Sydney in the morning. Okay. Very quickly, guys, and please don't forget to like and share this video with as many people as possible, so more and more people can learn from all this insight that we've generated today morning. So let's get to the audience Q&A. Give me a second. Okay, let's go to audience Q&A. Okay.
That's great.
First question is from Charles Osborne, and he says, cloud data platforms have developed well, but pricing model is still changing. Will the concept of charging to get data out of a particular cloud continue or become more open source in nature? Who wants to go?
I think I can take it.
Yep.
So this is how it is, right? So it's going to start definitely. The question is, is it going to get better? Yes, definitely, it's going to get better when when there is so many organizations are moving towards as a vendor community to service the customers. Right now, we have three big providers, as you know. We have AWS, we have Microsoft, we have GCP, but there are a lot of the second layer companies are coming. So the pricing models are going to be definitely changing in the future, probably in the next 6 months, 1 year. And then, I know that there's the egress data, cost and all that kind of stuff. It's going to get better, on the coming months and years. That's how we see it. Definitely, there is going to be a lot of, open source in nature, but probably it might be not, will be taken by these bigger organizations, but there will be always the second layer companies, the vendors, that they will come and start, making that more affordable to the customers.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anyone wants to add to it? No, that's fine. Thanks. Next question is from Richard Berger. Hi, Richard. How are you? What is the effect of combining multiple technologies? What can companies do tomorrow what they can't do today?
I've written several case studies of this in my book, and I'll just use a very simple illustration. This is from a company called NAL Resources, who bundled together 3 technologies and achieved a dramatic reduction in costs to run their business. And those 3 technologies were an artificial intelligence engine to take legal land contracts, lease contracts, to read the contract and interpret the contract, looking for the clauses that would drive calculations for, say, royalty and lease payments. They then used a bot technology to take those clauses and convert those into an Excel spreadsheet model to actually do the calculation, the adds and the subtracts for the costs and the revenues. And then third, they then created smart contracts on blockchain to auto pay the resulting royalty. And so there's 3 technologies bundled together. Any one of them is powerful, but you put the 3 of them together, and what they did was they found a way to take a process called the royalty process, which typically takes 8 to 9 minutes per contract at the end of each month, and that became a totally automated process that was running in 30 to 45 seconds. And the things you can unlock become, we are just at the very edge of trying to understand this. But you can imagine when we get to robots out there, we're going to want the robots to be operating on reliable quality data. Where's that going to come from? We'll have to do things ahead of it to get the robots to be able to operate effectively. So bundling technologies is actually one of the secrets to success here.
Yep. And I totally agree with you, because if there is no machine learning, and then getting all that data is of no use, because you're not doing anything with it. And, if there is machine learning but no data, well, it won't work anyway. So if there is no NLP, then there will be no communication. So it needs to be working all in tandem. And the key word here is orchestration, which I've said a few times as well. I think that's what people need to understand, that if in the cloud orchestration happens, it is going to make a huge difference to the sector, any industry, including energy sector. Okay, very quickly, next question is from Joe Reeves. And Joe says, do you think as companies move their data to the cloud, we'll start seeing less siloed data systems? Who wants to go? Adam?
I'll hit that. I definitely think so. Again, referring back to the past, there were many FTP, security issues, bulk downloads, timing of getting the data. While data that's in the cloud, the API, RESTful API, continues to evolve and get better, not perfect. But I think as that's in the cloud, those data sources become more readily available. The connecting of them, as we talked earlier, become more readily available. So that the creation of these data lakes, or the exchanging of data between this one application platform on the cloud and another application on the application platform on the cloud, is faster than ever. I'm amazed by it today. Again, dating myself from a technology perspective, the way folks are not only cloud, but rack space hosted environments, or the on-prem that's still in the data center. And the fact that we can connect all of those data stores today very quickly, very efficiently, in a way that can scale is amazing. And I think, Joe, to your question, as things continue to move to the cloud, that only gets faster, more secure, and easier to do.
And to add to that, I will say that siloed data systems are creation. Well, technology has been able to bring it all together for such a long time. It is because businesses wanted to create those siloed data systems. That's why they exist in certain businesses. I think it's the mindset as well that needs to change to expose, because I think when I was at a large corporate, the idea was that I want to keep my data to myself, so that when I go to the board, I will have my different number than a number that someone else is sharing, and then so that also needs to change. It's not only the technology; it's also the it's also the mindset of people that needs to change as we go forward.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next question is from Paul Ebenezer. This time I think I got the name right. Paul, Thank you for joining us, Paul. When you say this question, when you say doubling of value, what do you mean by value? And that's to Geoffrey.
Yeah, so value in this is really dependent on the context within which the individual is working. So for those, if you think about value from a shareholder standpoint, you can drive value in four ways. You can boost your revenue, your top line. You can squeeze your costs or your cost line. You can improve the utilization of your assets, or you can improve the narrative about your company, how you manage the volatility and communicate what you're up to. So those are the four levers that you can use to drive value. And the issue here with digital innovations or innovations in general is that you have to know which one of these levers you're pulling so that you can aim for that doubling of value equation. And in the oil and gas world, as I mentioned, the places where most companies are going to receive value or tackle value is on that cost and productivity equation, because down by 20% and productivity up means you're playing with your asset mix and your costs. On revenue, the price of the product is set by the market, the oil and gas price. There's not much you can do about that. But what you can control is cost and productivity of your assets. And so those are the levers that you need to be pulling on.
Good stuff. And I think I would totally agree with you. It's not only increasing the revenue, it's also optimizing the costs and also the narrative that in the long run helps change and bring more value to the organization. It's all put together. Just make an observation, guys. Lots of people on YouTube asking questions. I'm not getting questions from LinkedIn. What's going on? So if you're watching this on LinkedIn, you owe us a question. So put that question in the comments. There is no question on LinkedIn. What's going on? Okay. Next question is from Tanya Descartes. Hopefully, I've got the second name right. Tanya. She's saying, how is security concerns being addressed when moving to the cloud? Senthil, you want to have a go?
Yeah, I can take that. So definitely, the systems are getting more mature these days, especially the bigger organizations like Microsoft or AWS is spending millions and billions of dollars on the cybersecurity side of the house. If you see the transformation has happened in the last 5 years in the cloud business, it's enormous. And now to even have another layer to protect your data points, they have released some layers to run some public sector Department of Defense businesses. So it's not even one layer. There is 3 or 4 layers of cyber security compliances goes into the place, because otherwise they don't get approved to use the cloud. So I don't think customers have to even think twice about the security. It is, I think, best for all. What we have seen is we haven't seen any kind of issues in terms of the security concerns, in any of our projects what we have done in the past.
Okay. Anyone else wants to add to it, or should I move on? Okay. Next comment is from Charles Osborne. He says, agree, Senthil. The value is bringing ancillary value streams and systems into the ERP ecosystem to create adaptability to company strategy. And actually, he's right. Next comment is from Vijay Dayalan, and he says, when engaging a consultant like Sierra or Stonebridge, what is the first step to do? Is there any upfront cost to getting a situation assessment? Any word on it, guys? Adam?
So, Adam, you want to take it or you want me to go for it?
Go ahead, Senthil.
All right, very good. So, I know this is a great question. So definitely we have a lot of assessments we do to the customers. It's kind of the assessment is just from the 30,000 square feet. We do something to give them a kind of giving them a value. Hey, if you do this, this is how it's going to be looking like. Assessment with the maximum not more than 2 weeks. And we do in a different capacities. We do for supply chain assessments. We do for the data assessments, because not many times when we go to the customers, always we see a challenge on the data quality, master data governance, master data management, huge issues, because they would have spent millions of dollars probably. That master data, golden master data, has not been followed as a process. So we do data assessment, we do supply chain. So we have a lot of things, and most of the assessments for the first 1 or 2 weeks, it's free to the customers. So I want to just throw that, in this session.
Well said.
Adam, you want to add something to it?
Well said. Apologies. I think the cat got into catnip and was talking there a little bit. So thank you, Senthil, for stepping in.
Okay. Okay, let me move to the next question. Is from Dale Scott, and Dale says, are there things a founder should be doing to support eventually grow into their own enterprise systems or be attractive to an acquirer who will need to integrate them into their own systems? Who wants to go?
Well, I deal with all kinds of tech startups and founders, and the things that they need to think about are from the start, from the get-go, as they put their business together. They need to be thinking about the scale-up potential. Building a technology or a solution for market that has no scale-up pathway is a surefire way to erode from value when the time comes. So that would be one. Second one I also see as a key one is startups who don't get beyond the pilot stage and get into enterprise, some sort of enterprise game plan or enterprise footprint. So if you have, you're a founder and you've got 30 pilots underway trying to demonstrate your product's viability, but you have never closed or moved anyone to an enterprise purchase, the market's going to really struggle to see where your upside is. And then the third would be keeping your technology as open as you can make it, so that it can be gracefully introduced and picked up by a buyer and put into their environment. Would be the third thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. May have been through this process over the last year. So I think Geoffrey hit the key points, and the Stonebridgers on the call may laugh. I'm dated on the technology as stated before, but the containers, the Kubernetes, the microservices within your architecture. So in addition to what Geoffrey said, it can run on multiple cloud platforms, right? Acquirers, private equity investors that you might look at, Dale, they're very interested in that. And however you shape your companies, your solution, your revenue, if your revenue can be reoccurring in nature, right? It's everything is a service these days. The monthly subscription is going to garner a higher multiple or allow you to keep additional control of your company if that type of revenue is there versus one time.
Yeah, I'd add, it's data, not hardware. So the more you can be bits and bytes, the faster you can scale. The minute you become, I'm a hardware sensitive company, that's can be quite limiting. So you have to be very, very mindful that your value to tie into the growth prospects needs to be tied somehow to your data and your ability to grow that data pile.
Amazing. Next question. Next question is from Divas, and saying, what effect will cloud computing have when it comes to IoT?
Great question. Do you want to take it? Yeah.
No, I spoke last time. You take it, but I definitely have a perspective here.
Oh, definitely. Great. So even we built a lot of product lines in the cloud, basically for to spell out on the IoT technologies, to get all the data points from the SCADA systems and integrating with their operational systems and business data points, to kind of give a value-driven data points, which we call it as a performance indicators for the C-suites and the business people to make the decisions. And the cloud is pretty evident to do this, because you have multiple systems, non-ERPs, ERP systems, and homegrown systems. And if you want to connect some 30 or 40 different landscape of different systems, the cloud is the only way to kind of integrate through your APIs and your REST to kind of jump up and running those systems pretty fast. I wouldn't say it's a big job. but you can make it some kind of a value, to your IoT data points. Before 10 years back, we cannot think of this kind of technologies anymore, right? Only the big data, all this data lake programs, IoT technologies and predictives are kind of really shaped in the last 10 years to a place where you can skim more data points with a given data structures and cloud computing, and then kind of provide the value. Back to you, Jeff, please, if you want to add something on it.
Jeff, you want to add something?
Well, what I would observe is that the traditional SCADA world, that's supervisory control data acquisition world, which really dates back to the 1960s and 70s when it really started to roll out. That architecture and structure has served us exceptionally well for a very long time. And but the frontier for SCADA technology is to, in fact, make it cloud enabled too. So the greenfield projects out there at the very frontier of infrastructure development are now looking very hard at how do I move my traditional controlling environment, all those sensors, and how do I put those into a cloud framework and run my classic control environment through the cloud structure. And you can imagine as you're building out, say, a new transportation infrastructure, subway lines, you need signage, better lighting, monitoring for issues, dealing with the weather changes. How are you going to hook all that stuff up? And so at the very edge, these worlds are moving to becoming cloud structures themselves too.
Yeah. You went right there, Geoffrey, for sure. I think about it as the game changer, the maturity of the IoT continues to advance, like cloud computing. What would have been different about the polar vortex that hit the Midwest, last week? And I think there would have been a lot of preventative maintenance, a lot of winterization, de-winterization that could have happened across the wind farms, across the solar farms, across the oil and gas network infrastructure pipeline. That maybe Senthil wouldn't have been a hotel or
Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
Unforgettable moments of that 1 week for all the entire Texans. Was really bad. Yeah.
No doubt.
No, but I think to your point, distribution can play an important role there, because energy distribution through wires, the IoT component can actually understand the relationship with weather. And I don't know why people don't do that. It's a no-brainer for me. They could understand the impact of weather on the wires and how it could be, how there could be a outage, and they could actually figure it out. They could predict it up front and maintain it. That could have happened, but anyways.
Yeah, that application is live and running in Australia, when the gas fields in Queensland also incorporate a great deal of solar power to drive the facilities, and the control rooms watch the weather patterns quite carefully. They can see when the clouds are going to move over the solar panel infrastructure, which will cause a reduction in power availability, and they quickly figure out, all right, so how do I secure power either from batteries or alternative sources, so I can keep that infrastructure running. So this is commonly done. It's not rocket science. You actually can do this kind of optimization of these very, very different data sets relative to energy infrastructure now.
So that's good, guys. Devas, if you got your answer right, all it takes is press a heart button there. Anyways, and I would say to everyone, guys, we're trying to share our experiences and knowledge. Please press the thumbs up, press the heart button, so more and more people can learn from these three individuals. And Ajay, Ashok, and Ajay, thank you for waking up this late if you're dialing in from India. With so many digital projects failing, what are the key success factors for capturing value? Who wants to go?
Well, I can probably provide a start. I'm sure each of us has a point of view. So the first one I mentioned earlier, and I would simply reinforce is that to truly capture value, particularly if you're working with a novel a startup of some kind, the way to solve for that is to work very closely. For oil and gas people, abnormally closely. It won't feel right because you're being way more transparent and open about what's really going on in your business with that startup. But your chances of success of the startup hitting the mark are dramatically higher. And so there's step number one.
Yeah. I would add, if we went back to the proverbial people, process, technology, personal opinion is people usually are what get in the way of success. So technology is great. Organizational change management, process owner, understood ROI out of the gate, avoid waterfall, go more iterative, get the small wins and build. And then, of course, when it comes to technology, don't build a Cadillac when a Volkswagen will do, or whatever the proverbial high end or medium low end. So don't run too far with that beautiful turnkey stack in the cloud. Because at the end of the day, what you're trying to do is deliver that business value. And that funds the next project. The advice there.
So a couple of things what we have seen in the past, right? Because these technologies are not pretty old, it is very new. So whoever is going to design and architect this enterprise data platforms, digital platforms, have to be really good. Really good. They should know all the ins and outs of all the systems. So that is number one criteria, having that strong architectural design team from all the business process, functional process, infrastructure side, the networking people. Everybody has to work as a team, but that the cream of the people has to design the system. The second thing is people don't focus on a data. So the data should be your first project before even thinking of doing your digital projects, because data will be your killer. After 3 years, 4 years of your program, you would have spent $600-700 million, but the project would be failure just because of the data. Digital means it's all about the data. Data is the one which has to take the precedence, and that has to be your first project before even thinking of your larger transformations. A couple of pointers to really be successful. This one or two things are very critical for your programs.
Okay, let me move on to the next question. Lakshman R. Hi, Lakshman, how are you? He says, renewables are in the news a lot. How can the average mid-sized energy company best embrace the trend towards renewables? What is your advice, guys?
Well, I'll start again. So renewables, of course, covers a very, very wide cut of energy supply, and but there are many, many ways to take advantage of it. What I find with oil energy companies is there often isn't a single focus or person or a point of accountability for energy purchase inside companies. In other words, the person responsible for buying energy for the trucks for driving around, they have their own contracting mechanism. Someone who has responsibility to buy power for the buildings where people are working, they have a different energy buyer. The guy or gal who's buying power for field operations, different buyer. So the first problem you've got is your energy purchasing is actually all spread out. And once you've done that, it can be very challenging to then build the business case that drives you towards finding the place where renewable energy might in fact be just the right economic opportunity for you to solve for a ESG target or some objective you've got. So that would be my first thought. Well, just take a look at how you're buying energy today and just ask yourself, are you really even in a good position to make effective buying decisions, sourcing green power for your own operations? You can, once you've solved that, then you can turn to, okay, so how do I say leverage solar powers plus batteries on some of my, say, warehousing facilities or lay down yards where I may be able to capture some energy value, and then wheel that correctly into my business so that it makes sense. Again, this is very company specific when you start getting into these things.
Yeah. Okay. Next question is from Richard Berger. He says, the recent energy outage in Texas suggests that there may be unforeseen holes in energy infrastructure. What can a company best do to see that unseen and prepare for unknown future events such as this? Who wants to go?
Who's in Houston?
There you go.
Well, Senthil, you got to go.
I don't think a Canadian should be telling anybody in Houston anything about their energy infrastructure.
So the best advice, or what would have been fantastic, because these things are more predictions, right? The predictions was not done, so the power capacity, there were no power surplus for them. So basically what happened last week is, they haven't even thought of it. Why? Because if they would have run some algorithms using the AAML and the predictive algorithms, having the historical data, what happened 40 years, 30 years back, they would have at least had some kind of a power surplus to provide to all the people in Texas. Since they didn't even plan for it, when things went down, they had to buy from the other regions, and it costed them thousands of dollars. Right now, we are all sitting to see what sort of bill we are going to get. Are we going to get a $200 bill or a $20,000 bill? We don't know that. All these things can be avoided, and the only way is again, I would definitely say that it's a digital transformation. That's it. If the companies and organizations had more advanced systems to predict what's coming, maybe they would have avoided this totally.
Okay. Anyone else wants to comment? I'll move on. Next comment is from Lachu Kandas. She's saying, quite useful and interesting conversation. Thank you, Lachu. And I think she's watching us from India, and this is 1 o'clock in the night. So thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it, Lachu. Thomas Merrill says, I get the cloud and the integration pieces. What about the data piece? Energy deals with a lot of it. How do you double data value?
Yeah. Great question. I think kind of twofold in what we heard here is earlier, you could even triple data value, and due to the horsepower that Geoffrey mentioned earlier, and having less layers in your data lake or the historical data warehouse, you're bringing it in quickly, you're moving it out quickly. You can even start to use machine learning, other things to do data cleansing, that before that was somebody going back to the source system and traveling all the way through. So the cloud computing provides so many different ways to enhance the data experience, whether that's quality, analytics, amount of, I think in the context of the operational ERP discussion, is I think when you have visibility to the end-to-end life cycle of whatever that is, a well, an asset, a pipeline, a solar farm, that you can then double the data value based on the question asked earlier, how do you get out of silos? Because you have that visibility, you understand how processes connect, you understand how data architecture and data flow connects, you get a lot more efficient with your data. And at a minimum, there's a double bagger in there for sure, potentially triple or more.
Okay. Next question is from Ram Kumar, and Ram says, just curious, what about the data security in the cloud? Just a gentleman's word.
So data security, we have a lot of ways to do that, in different platforms. And to point of Ram's, right, the data means everything for the customers, and that kind of strategy, you need to have the strong architectural design team to build the security layers within the platforms, whatever you guys are doing, point-to-point protocols, the different side of security systems we set up, and then bidirectional security data points we kind of set up between customers, we call it as an endpoint protocols between the customer and the vendors and the customer and the employees. So there is a lot of mechanisms we have to use. So the right architecture and design to what you have to use, because I think most of the data platforms or cloud platforms, they offer everything right now, but you have to know what to use, when to use, how to really configure those things to provide the data security to the customer.
Okay, you want to add something? Next, move on to the next comment. Ram says, I hope some encryption mechanism is in place for clouds. Any details on the same?
Probably they can send us an email. We can provide more details.
Sure.
The
Okay.
technology details, yeah.
Okay. Then Diva says, thanks for your answer. That's Divagar. Oh, I've got a question on LinkedIn. Finally, someone, Paul J. Ebenezer. And Paul's asking, how has the pandemic itself impacted value generation?
Yeah, so I can tackle this. So the pandemic for tech companies who are selling into this industry during the pandemic, if they are still working and successful and have closed new customers and turned on new innovations there, those companies have proven themselves to be able to withstand the worst economic downturn in human history, going back hundreds of years. We've never seen anything like what we've gone through economically here. So if you're a tech company and you're still standing and still growing and still adding, you've shown yourself able to withstand the worst possible economic circumstances. That is value creation right there.
Fair enough.
Good stuff. I have one more comment and then I think we'll go for a close. Thomas says, thanks, Adam, for your response. Thank you, Adam. That was it. I think we've had many questions answered, and you guys did a great job in answering those questions. It was
Thank you.
really great to have you guys on the show. I always have my audience to answer, my panelists to answer one question, that is, what is one phrase, one paragraph, or one sentence that you would like the audience to take away with them at this hour? So I will start with Adam with A.
All right, put me on it. Even goes back to an old book, but I would say always chase the quest for true business value. What you go do and all of this that we discussed, if it truly is impactful to the shareholder value at the end of the day for a company, then it's going to move fast. You'll get the support you need, and the change agents will naturally be there. So again, stay focused on the quest for that true business value.
Okay, Geoffrey.
Oh, well, in my case, I would say the future's so bright, you got to wear shades.
Okay, Senthil, what do you think?
The future is all about the data. That's it. Guys, focus on data. That's what, we would say. The company as a Sierra or Stonebridge, the most of the things what we built is about all data strategy. So that's going to be the digital transformation, and guys keep focusing on the data side of the house.
Yeah.
That's going to be a winner.
Hey, thank you guys. Thank you for your time today. It was a pleasure having you, all three of you, on the show. I had fun. Hope you had fun too.
Oh yeah,
asking some of the tricky questions from the audience and some from me. But anyways, thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to seeing you very soon.
Very good. Thank you, guys.
Yes, sir. Shailey, Geoffrey.
Thanks, Adam.
Thanks, guys.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.
Bye for now.
So guys, that was Adam Hutchinson, Geoffrey Cann, and Senthil Kumar, all the way from Canada and US. I hope you liked the show and you enjoyed the conversation and you learned a few things from the conversation. One, I am so thankful to all the people who joined in from Asia. I know it's the middle of the night at the moment for people in Asia, but if you have joined in from Asia, I think this is commendable. I'm so thankful to you for joining at the middle of the night, especially from India, where just we're hitting midnight time frame. So thank you very much for joining in from Asia. And for people who were joining in from the US, this was first event where we were focusing on US, and that's why it was 5 o'clock in the morning for me. But guys, thank you very much. And it was so many people from the US that joined in, and in the Americas. It was great to have you on the show. Hope you enjoyed the show. Please, before I go, a couple of things. One, please like, share, and retweet if you're watching this on Twitter. If you're watching this on Facebook, please share it with other groups which are focused on energy, emerging technologies, and artificial intelligence, so the guys can learn from it. And if you're watching this on LinkedIn, please share it with groups, and also like and share, like and share, please. And for you to view all such episodes on emerging technologies and all the sessions that I run on emerging technologies live and ask questions directly, please press the follow button, press the subscribe button on YouTube, and the bell icon on YouTube. Press the follow button on LinkedIn. Press the follow button on Twitter, and please like it on Facebook. Thank you very much for your time. It was a pleasure having you guys on the show and watching this. And thank you for all the great questions. Thank you, and I will see you very soon. So bye now, and take care. Bye.